I became interested in VR many years ago when I was doing Avatar. I sort of recognized that we were sort of entering into a new phase of technology where you could sort of not just surround yourself with the 360 images, but possibly immerse yourself in that. And what we were doing on Avatar was sort of the first steps towards being able to sort of be immersed in worlds. And so to me that was really exciting. And so I'm here not just to support VR in general, but just watch it grow as a new medium and watch in wide-eyed excitement as new and terrific things are being done.
So I've been a fan of yours. I may have said this to you before since St. Elsewhere. I remember that was such a great show.
Thank you. I love doing that. That was 82 through 88, and it was a great 6 years that I spent with great actors, David Morris and Denzel Washington and Bonnie Bartlett and Bill Daniels, and what a team.
I feel like right now creativity and this kind of invention is more important than ever. Tell me about why this would be important to support.
Well, for the arts, CGI is such an important part of the way we have storytelling today in movies. Computer graphics are computer-generated images are very important, a big part of it. And you take a movie like Lion, which probably has some CGI in it, but it certainly has Google Earth as part of the story of the way the guy finds his way and gets some important information from Google Earth. So I think that kind of technology, the power of the internet, the power of virtual reality and what you can do with that, these are all great tools that are emerging and getting better every day.
You think it'll help us find new sources of energy and new ways to maybe employ people?
It helps a great deal in my, sweet spot, which is the environment. I really love the way they go now and look and see about the potential of your rooftop for solar with Google Earth. They don't have to send a truck out anymore. They save all that fuel and manpower and wages. They just look in Google Earth and say, you've got a big tree that's not deciduous, and we can't put solar on your rooftop, or we can put it, you got a flat roof, and we got to make sure it's not going to leak if we put solar up. They get all that from a great tool called Google Earth. So it helps the solar industry. Other technologies like that and computer power helps you to make a home or office building more energy efficient. So these tools are very important.
I'm Nani. I'm from Emblematic Group, and this is my co-founder, Michael Licks. We have here demoed up for an award, Out of Exile, which tells the story of a young man when he goes into the family home, finds a religious intervention, and when he refuses to back down on who he is, they assault him. And it's a very intense piece, and all the audio is real. He happened to capture it from his cell phone, but we built an entire virtual reality piece around that experience, so you're there when this whole thing transpires. You can't look away. And then at the end, we use holograms. We use AI technology to offer messages of hope from 4 individuals, including Daniel, who were made homeless based on what their gender preference was, and but who've recovered and offer these messages of hope. So it's a really beautiful piece. It premiered at Sundance. It's had a wonderful, wonderful reception, and now it's up for award here tonight.
I mean, that's very powerful. What inspired you to do that?
So I'm known for having pioneered the use of virtual reality for nonfiction stories, and I've done a number of pieces around hunger, Syrian refugees, border patrol violence. And when I heard this audio, it was clear to me that this is a story that needs to be told in every medium. And in collaboration with the True Colors Fund and the actress Sara Ramirez, we decided to make this piece so that it can really hopefully hit the kind of chords, hit the kind of notes, the sort of empathy that VR is so successful at doing.
Hi, Dimitri Portelli. Nice to meet you.
So you're nominated here tonight? No?
Yes. Categories. Yeah.
Wow.
The film we did with Ang Lee. So it's a 3D high frame rate movie, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. And it's nominated for Best 3D Picture, for Best High Dynamic Range, and Best Live Action Stereography.
To say I love Ang Lee, by the way. So yeah.
He's an amazing filmmaker to work for. He motivates all of us, around a goal, and you just want to give your best work to Ang. And that's what makes him great to work with.
So you did a movie that is a 3D experience.
Yeah. So it's sort of somewhat a crossover between VR and traditional filmmaking, and that we take a lot of the technology that's used in VR, like almost all VR is high frame rate. A lot of VR is high resolution. So our film was 3D, and it was 4K, and it was 120 frames per second, and it was high dynamic range. So Aang asked us to bring all those things together to make a picture that immerses the audience through sort of a more classical cinema experience, but with higher technology into the story.
Chairman, our
Oh,
boss.
okay, hi, nice to meet you.
He's head of entertainment and marketing, theatrical for Barco.
Oh, wow.
So he's here tonight from Brussels.
From Brussels.
Yeah,
That's
so if
right,
you have
that's
a
right.
question about the future of movies and VR, this is the man to ask.
Wow. Well, so you just got in?
Yeah. I just came in this morning, so.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the future of virtual reality? Where do you think it's going?
Well, it's a good question, right? I think virtual reality is just at the starting phase. I think it's going to be first of all, right now. I think it's for the individual experience. I think, and we're moving more into a group experience. Is what you're going to see. The focus today is on content, I believe, because we need to get the content first, and then you're going to see more and more. I think the system side of that happening, but there's definitely something which will be a new way of watching content. And a new way of experiencing it, and it's all about experience. I mean, also going to the movie. It's about the different. How can I create a different experience? And VR is just adding significant to that. So yeah.
For some, I was thinking of the holodeck. Did you ever watch Star Trek? Yes. Is it kind of like that? I mean, do you imagine that people could walk into a space and create a whole story or experience a whole story?
So the man who invented the holodeck or was working in that kind of technology was in New York, and Gene Roddenberry, his wife, was a friend, and they went to New York, and Gene Roddenberry was saying, how do you create this virtual world? And he said the best way to create it is to write it into your Star Trek TV show. So Gene Roddenberry put it into his show, and that's really one of this historical, because so many young creatives got inspired by it. But we're on a lot where 1 year ago tonight, our friends were saying we're making this movie called La La Land, and we're very excited about it. And tonight, they're all saying we're working on this movie for Steven Spielberg called Ready Player One, and it'll be out next year, and it's a movie about virtual reality. So it's coming. It's going to be very exciting. And tonight, we're bringing the movie makers and the VR people together to talk about the future and to give each other awards for their great work this year.
I think because it's such a stressful time for most everybody in the world right now, that the creativity and is a little bit of an escape is kind of a nice thing these days.
You think of the country's history, whether it's the Depression or after 9/11, when things get tough, people go to the movies. They want to get away. They want to see something positive and happy. I think that's why I saw something that allows a 7-year-old to stand in front of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids of Egypt. So we're going to be able to take the young people of today places all over the world that most of their parents never got a chance to see. And so VR is going to be a whole new world, I think.
Congratulations. So tell me about why you're supporting virtual reality.
I find virtual reality, as Elijah describes it, as an empathy machine. It is to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, not to see people as the other, but to become the other. And his piece that he's nominated for tonight really inspires that sort of compassion.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, it's called Defying the Nazis. It's based on the most recent Ken Burns film about this couple that saved 27 children during the Holocaust and got them on this boat and got them to in the United States. And we basically put you on that boat with the kids, and you hear their stories from the survivors telling you, and you see their faces in the sky, and you're on the boat looking around with these kids as they're going on this journey. Yeah.
There is a lot of power in shared experience, I think, and a lot of healing. And, there's many groups that come together and heal that way. Do you think that virtual reality is kind of in that vein?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I think it can be used for that. It can be used for all kinds of things. It's a tool, It's like a hammer. You can build bridges or you can bash brains. But if you use it for that potential, it can absolutely change the world. I mean, it can connect people. It can, like Maria was saying, it can put people into the shoes of another and let them see through your eyes, and we're just getting started.
And I used to spend a lot of time at the Dresden Room.
Wow! Oh boy! So you really do know the swingers thing. That's right, Marty Elaine. Sure.
Yeah. But anyway, so tonight, why is this important to you? This technology?
Well, I started off as a filmmaker in independent film. First, I was an actor, and then I got into independent film like Swingers, and we had very little technology available to us. But technology always offered an opportunity to tell stories. So we had access to more sensitive film stock, and we had access to digital editing, and all those things that allowed us to make movies in a way that people 10 years earlier couldn't have for the price that we did. And now the cost of filmmaking has come down quite a bit for people who are making their own movies. For me, I like to use other technologies to help me tell stories, like computer graphics. CGI was a very big part of Jungle Book and of Iron Man. And by looking at what technology has to offer, it opens up the types of stories I can tell. So 20 years ago when I made Swingers, I didn't really have any shots in it. Then later on, as I got into movies like Elf and Zathura, we started to introduce special effects. Now with VR, the whole platform is based around effects, and there's nothing real. There's, at least in the style of VR that I've been exploring, there's no photography. So it's interesting watching the whole thing, the whole pyramid turn on its head, where the technology becomes the predominance of the medium, and the people involved are purely there to help help use that technology to tell a story to other people.
Well, I'm talking to everybody tonight. I keep thinking, I saw this special about Walt Disney and when he was doing Snow White and how he had to make everybody accept that it was a dramatic story, but it was animated. And I was thinking this is sort of, in a way, that same jump.
Yeah, the pattern repeats itself. New technology emerges. There are storytellers that see opportunities in that new technology. They present it to people, and then once you get that great piece of content that introduces everybody to it, whether it's sound films, color movies, television, or VR, that's something that's required. It's not just the technology that's interesting; it's the pairing of the technology with the storytelling. And so Walt Disney was fascinating because he was able to bring the first emotional, color, full feature-length animated production to the big screen, and it was a huge success critically and commercially, and allowed him to fulfill his dream of building a studio.
So talk to me about the difference between when you were working, when you worked on Ghostbusters, and what it's like today to work on a film.
On VR, you mean, or
just on special effects in general?
Well, ours was that first Ghostbusters movie was one of the last of the sort of traditional analog special effects. Interesting enough, what's happening just lately is people miss that kind of very visceral feeling that those films had, and some of those special effects directors are now going back to that approach a little bit. I think, digital effects are so fabulous, and you can do so much. I think a combination is the best.
Because there's something to be said for, I don't know why I keep thinking of Snow White, there's something to be said for the beauty of that.
Yeah, it's not only the beauty, it's the opportunity for the actors to actually interact really with what's going on. Things like the card catalog in the library, that we did real. Today that would normally be done using digital effects, but there was nothing like having that happen to the actors, and they were able to do all sorts of things that they would normally have not done had they not really been in the middle of it.
Is it more fun for you to work that way?
Well, it is and it isn't. It's slower, and that's one of the reasons that people have gone away from it. You do one take and then, okay, let's reset, and 2 hours later you're ready to go again, as opposed to 2 minutes.
Is there a story that if you wanted to do something in virtual reality, is there a story that you want to tell?
Well, it's hard because you're telling a story for just normally one person at a time, and I'm, used to working for large audiences and the effect of that. I've done mostly comedies. Comedies always work better for lots of people, but I worked with The Void, who were going to be honored tonight at the awards for the Ghostbusters experience that is now in New York, at Madame Tussauds as a kind of, they won an award for that, and that was great fun, and I had a lot to do with it, and learning what the new rules are for telling a story in virtual reality, because it's different, and you think of different things, and it's partially because the viewer is controlling the experience to a great extent.
Oh wow, so you have to let go of control a little bit then.
Yeah, it's a different kind of control. It's you try to create a focused moment that things go the way you hope they'll go.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Will Maurer from Legend VR. We're here, 5 of our projects that we've worked on with other companies are nominated for awards. So we're hoping that we go home with 5.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me, what inspires you to work in virtual reality?
Every day is a new challenge, so it's amazing. It's, trying to figure out the storytelling aspects, figuring out the post-production challenges, shooting the different cameras. Every project introduces a new set of complexities, and we like to jump in and figure those out.
It seems like continuity would be a really hard thing. Or do you film, I have no idea how you would create a whole space.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people think you grab a 360 camera and that's how you create virtual reality, but we've done a lot of projects where we shoot nodally with a single cam, with and then shoot in quadrants, composite that together. Done other projects where you create CG environments and comp in live action elements. So whatever the project calls for, kind of get to play around and figure out the best thing.
And also, I think you'd have to be thinking very clearly to make sure that everything is,
Measure twice, cut once. Yeah. That rule applies even more for VR because the post-production process could be costly. So, a lot of traditional filmmakers are going in, capturing traditional stories in VR, and, we found the best success thinking about the story ahead of time. We always ask everybody, why VR? Why does this project or story need to be told in 360? And that's where you start, and then from there you go on an adventure.